All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Athlete Soul webinar. My name is Miriam Glaze. I'm the founder of Athlete Soul. I would like to present this webinar for today, a few information about what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be talking about, but also introducing our 4 guests that we have for this event. And we're going to take a few minutes to have people joining. I can see already a few are coming on. First of all, this event is recorded like we do every time. The recording will be available to our participants. We'll also post that on our website after today, so you'll be able to go back to it. And we'll have information on our guests and where you can find them and reach out to them and learn more about their company. In addition to that, you can ask questions throughout the webinar. Please submit them in writing in the Q&A box. And then I will be asking them to our guests in the second part of the webinar today. The outline will be pretty simple. We'll go through each one of our guests one by one. They'll talk about where they're coming from, who they are, what their company is about. And then the second part will be taking your question and have a little bit of an interactive conversation. Now, about this webinar today, this is really part of the series that we have been doing for the last few weeks on helping athletes understand their personal brand, how to use their personal brand, how to leverage the status that they have as an athlete to generate a little bit of revenue for yourself and take advantage of who you are and your influence so that you can support yourself and your sport. So this is sort of like the last part of this series where we talk with companies that are there to support you in that effort. And so we will be talking with Nick from Tagalong, Taylor from Kynship, Danny from Game Day, and Eric from BeSpoke. And I didn't do that in the right order, but they will explain what they're all about and how they can support you athletes. So hopefully that is super valuable for all of you. We will be sharing their contact information and their company after the event. But for now, I think we're going to be starting with Nick. We still have a few people joining us. But Nick, I think you can take over and tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is Tagalong.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Miriam. Yeah, so when I was a professional athlete, I was a triathlete, ran in college, made the transition to triathlon, and was able to compete around the world in the Olympic distance as well as the sprint distance. And one of the things I noticed was that it was very challenging working with the governing bodies or finding sponsors to be able to not only, pay for flights and competitions to get to places, but to also, figure out how I was going to pay rent, how I was going to afford food. And I'm sure many of you know, when you're training full time, it is challenging to train full time, create a marketing presence, work with their coaches, and figure out ways to make ends meet. When you're not training or eating or sleeping, you're very exhausted. So I was trying to work as a production assistant, making about $150 a day, for 12-hour days. So one of the things that I tried to do after and kind of during my transition from a pro triathlete to what the next step was going to be, figure out a way to use my experience as an athlete and kind of capitalize on that. And I was introduced in Los Angeles at the time with a lot of different people to want to go on rides or runs or swims with me. And obviously triathlon is a unique sport because it does have 3 different disciplines. But what I really wanted to focus on was making that connection with someone, having someone join with my training, and kind of be able to let them pick my brain, whether it was about diet, whether it was about race prep, whether it was about injury prevention, and just general how you go about training for different sports. So what I looked to do was create this platform to allow athletes of all levels to connect, to find, hire, and train with professional athletes. So I'm going to run through a little bit about our company and where we are now. And let me just share my screen here. Cool. So thus Tagalong was created. It started as a way for, everyone wants to kind of be faster, set a personal record, attempt their first race. We all have different benchmarks of how we look to perform, to succeed. And one of the things that people are consistently missing is the knowledge of how to do that, putting it in a structure of a training plan that makes sense, the motivation to be able to do it maybe you're not doing it every day like a professional athlete is, but even 3-4 days a week, it can be challenging. And how do you know if you're doing that correct? How do you know if you're getting the results that you should be doing if you don't have someone holding you accountable for that? So I create a platform where people of all levels, like I said, can reach out to pro athletes and schedule a consult call to kind of pick their brains a little bit, to have a customized training plan, or to have a one-on-one session. Obviously, right now we've kind of pivoted to virtual, but have a one-on-one session with a pro where you have access to that pro athlete and ask them all things that have been on your mind about what is important in your own training. There's been a lot of studies out there where if you know that you're working out with someone who is better than you, you are very much more likely to burn more calories, to have a harder workout. So we are trying to give access to world-class training. We have about 60 pro athletes right now on the platform across 6 different sports, primarily in the endurance space. So triathlon, track and field, distance running, marathon running, rowing, cycling, and swimming. Some of the examples of these athletes are like Lanny Marchant, Canadian Olympian, and Joe Malloy, an American Olympian, both in 2016. As an example of the 60 athletes, we have about 22 that are former Olympians or currently training for what is now 2021 in Tokyo. The 2 types of users that we find that come to the Tagalong platform to work with pros are either competitive age group athletes who compete maybe 3-4 races a year, whether that's Ironman, whether that's a local road race, swimming competitions, whatever the race may be. But they are kind of that type A athlete. They know what they like. They have a coach, and they're just looking to kind of hit the exact workout that's prescribed with someone that can pull them through. So they're literally tagging along with one of the pros. And the other type we have is kind of the parent of a kid who is starting in middle school or in high school, looking to get that kind of next level training, competitive edge, where they're starting to get very good at their sport, or the parent wants to kind of help them understand what opportunities can come, whether they compete in high school, college, or beyond. So all of our pros competed at these levels and have very specific steps as to what got them to where they are. So to be able to have an hour session or a 90-minute session where they can pick the brain of a pro and, what did you do at this level? What were you doing here? Obviously is very particular to that pro, but also gives them a little bit of an insight as to what they can do. Our team is 4 people. Myself and Scott are former pro athletes. Myself as a triathlete, like I said, and Scott as a rower. My brother is actually an Olympic rower in 2016 on the men's 8 from the US. So my world and our world of endurance athletes is kind of in that rowing, swimming, cycling, running world, just because I came across so many athletes when I was training that were facing the same challenges that I was facing. How can I make money? How can I work with governing bodies when I get injured and they pull my stipend away? Same thing with sponsors. If we can bridge the gap between the access of capital for pro athletes to go after these dreams and go after these competitions, for people who actually follow them and put a value on what they spend so much time building as far as their brand and different opportunities like that. We have Luis Odo, who's kind of our COO, helps with putting together the day-to-day structure of what happens when we have a new user come and download our platform on their phone. How can we learn a little bit about them and connect them with the right pro? And then Sharon is our most recent hire, who's looking to kind of add a much more long-term approach. How can we do this in a scalable way? She kind of came to me and wanted to learn more about running, wanted to learn more about rowing, and so we had a consult call. So it's a pretty diverse team. And like I said, it's an app right now on the iOS platform that you download the app, you sign up, you can see where the pros are geographically located around the US. We have some in Australia and some in England as well. You can make an offer to them and say, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking to do. I know what I want. I just need an athlete who can come with me. So that accountability factor is huge of I'm paying for this high-end personal trainer who happens to be a pro athlete to take me through this workout. Or you can join a workout that one of the pros post on our platform that allows you to see a little bit about what this session is. So whether it's small groups that you're looking to do, or you're the parent of a kid and you want to go with the kid to see what it's all about, we have those two options as well. Obviously right now, in these times, we've pivoted towards virtual sessions and have had success with people booking sessions with pros doing either a workout online where they're both doing the same workout and kind of motivating the athlete during that, or just kind of talking about, hey, I want to have this race that was canceled that I still want to train for it and do it on this date. Can you help coach me through? Can you help put together a training plan that makes sense that I can follow, and then touch base with you once a week to make sure that I'm getting the benefits, getting the necessary benchmarks that make sense. Obviously, this is something that is kind of trying to bridge the access to professional athletes. So working on the tech side of things, building a very seamless platform, but essentially Tagalong operates as a management platform for athletes who don't necessarily need an agent, need to work with an agency, but they can manage themselves, but they don't necessarily have the time to operate their own website or build their own brand. We can do that for them. We can handle the scheduling, we can handle the payment, and we can handle the messaging back and forth. So I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of the pros we talk to are kind of like, I get these messages on different social media platforms or through my email, and it's all about how, hey, I'm training for this, or hey, I'm a big fan of yours. Could you give me a little info on what I can do to better myself? And the athletes are always kind of at this catch-22 where I want to help them. I want to give them the info that they're looking for. I just, don't have the time to do that. And without some sort of known transaction where I can respond with something that I'm interested in giving them answers to, because I know that I'm getting something out of this as well as able to help them. Tagalong offers a way to kind of, if you are interested in paying for the services and the experience and the skill set that pro athletes have that dedicated a lot of their time and effort to, we want to make Tagalong the platform where people can come to, and with the understanding of there are a lot of pros out there who are willing to work with you if you're willing to pay for that access to them. So we found that it helps a lot of the pros right now with obviously, being able to connect virtually, as well as kind of put together plans or give them a peek as to what a peek of a snapshot of the day in the life of a pro can be, as well as knowing that, their time is valuable. And that, for the most part, is what Tagalong is all about. So thank you. I think you're still muted.
I was. Thank you, Nick. That was really good and very clear. And no better way to start the webinar with using what the athlete know best, which is basically their skill in their sport and how they can use that. I think it's especially relevant at the moment, and we'll get back to it in the Q&A because I have quite a few questions for you. But let's move on to Taylor. And you can tell us more a little bit, Taylor, about first of all your background as an athlete, and then what is Kynship. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, well, as an athlete, I think I need to hop on Nick's app pretty quickly here. It's been a while. I'm washed up, and I've definitely lost the physical capabilities on my end. But I'm Taylor. I played football at UCLA. Graduated in 2016, and during my time at UCLA, that's really where I started to have a heart for exactly this. Quite honestly, seeing how hard it was for a lot of the players that graduated before me, starting as a freshman. I knew I probably wasn't going to make it to the NFL, so I constantly tried to seek out opportunities for myself to take that next step in what I was going to do with my life and what my life's purpose would be and what my life's work would do. And so transitioning and seeing everyone that went before me, it was tough. A lot of these guys end back up in bad situations that they had come from, in inner cities and poor areas, and they ended up not working jobs. And it's hard, you know, as a football player full time among all other sports in college, and then obviously as a professional athlete, it's hard to do the internships that are necessary to find success at the next level. So it's completely understandable. So I more so say that just to express my heart for this. I love to be here, and I hope and pray that something can be taken from it. And please follow up if there's anything that I say or anybody else says that can be of use. But following college, I went and worked at an agency called Athletes First. They represent players like Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Clay Matthews, and I specifically worked and handled the marketing rights of these people. So, and then in addition to the NFL, we handled and worked with the NBPA and had their marketing rights. But what I came to find out is nothing in what they did was attributable, one, and two, they only took care of their top 5 players in the NFL and the NBA. So only people that they really sourced deals for were those 3 guys that I just listed, and no one on the back end of the roster, players like 100 to 120. They never got into deals, but that was not indicative of their value. Brands would have loved to work with these people, 100%. They just weren't getting pushed by the top dogs at the marketing agency because they weren't bringing in the most revenue. Why would I push somebody that could get us $1,000 for a deal when Aaron Rodgers can get us a $3 million deal with State Farm? Is that fair? No, but it's just kind of the nature of the game. But again, that's more so just to say these players have been lied to and wronged in the sense that they've been led to believe that they don't have value when there's so many brands out there that would love to work with these people. And that's not just professional NFL players and NBA players. This is all sports, 100%. If you're a fencer, the product that you're using in your hand, the fencing, I honestly, my ignorance I don't even know what it is. Or if you're a rower in the rowing machine, reach out to these brands on your end. These people would love to work with you. So basically at this point, long story short, from there, I went to a digital marketing agency and ran Facebook paid media where everything was attributable to make sure and see on the back end, do these athletes at a smaller level, at like even a micro level, a micro influencer, what we call, can they convert on behalf of brands? When we put their story up on a website, when we run their content in Facebook ads, does it convert? Does it improve performance? Across the board, 100% it did. So from there, we started a marketing agency, an influencer marketing agency, and a Facebook paid media agency that does exactly that. We work with predominantly micro influencers, create content with them, and then distribute it across the brand's channels, their websites, Facebook ads, anything and everything, emails, and we watch performance increase. So what I would say is people have this misconception, one, of their value. A lot of these people, everyone in here has value to a brand, 100%. It's just getting yourself out there. A lot of brands also think that because of these agencies that serve as gatekeepers to the Aaron Rodgers of the world and that entire roster, they think that they don't have access to you guys, literally. So like a rower for a rowing machine, these brands probably think that they don't have access to you to work with you, and you guys aren't willing to work with them, and your prices are hiked up based off this fallacy that has been created by these gatekeepers of the world in marketing. When in reality, if you reached out to them, you are their dream. So I would just challenge each of you and if you want an email and a contract that we can send over to you to use on your end, just say, hey, I would love to work with you. I would love to give you a testimony of how I interact and work with your product. If it's a product that you use specifically to train for your sport that's specific to your niche, if it's something that you use in your actual match, in your game that's specific to your sport, these brands would genuinely use you 100%. Say you can use this for free for 30 days, 30-day term. You can use my name and likeness. You can use a story. You can use this content, all the above. And in 30 days, we can revisit the conversation. If you're conversion rate has increased, your sales has improved, my content has really performed for you guys, we would love to renegotiate a deal structure where it's a revenue share or you pay us an upfront fee. But just go hands down, palms down, and just give it upfront for free for them to use. You will be their dream, and I promise you will open up so many doors. And again, I'd be more than willing to share some sort of contract with you guys, some sort of email template reach out for you to get you out there. Because again, these brands are there, you are valuable, and there's so much to do for you guys. We always have this philosophy that it's creator versus distributor. People get mixed up and confused that these social media influencers with millions of followers are the people of most value. It's not really true. I mean, there's diamonds in the rough where these people that post on their social that have millions of followers, they convert on behalf of brands. It's 1 in 100. Some of these audiences, as you guys probably all know, there's a bunch of fake followers out there. But even when they're not, a lot of the time you get 1 to 2 purchases, 1 to 10 purchases with millions of followers, because the customer journey for a consumer typically takes 7 touch points. And so that's why on a brand's end, they don't need this social media influencers distribution. They have all their own distribution channels where they have millions of people on their email list, on their Facebook and Instagram, on their website visitors. People have the ability as a brand to redistribute what you give them, your story, your testimony, your content, your quotes. They have their audiences to distribute that content to. So I wouldn't even get mixed up. As an influencer marketing agency, a lot of people do believe there's so much stock in followers, when in reality, it's your story. That's what it is. That's what's of value. And if you guys are a top 10 athlete in your sport, there are so many brands looking to work with you that you can capitalize on. So nothing on mine to present, but that's more so my heart. And I just want you guys to all know there is value and brands are looking to work with you. So I just encourage you to put yourself out there and be the one to reach out to them. And again, the call to action here is just try to structure a deal where you allow them to use your name and likeness for a 30-day term free of cost, and then revisit and renegotiate a deal for yourselves. But that is all on my end, guys.
Awesome, Taylor. Thank you so much. And we actually got a question from the audience on that email and support that you suggested. How we get them to the participants. So maybe you and I after this event can together and send it out to everybody.
100%.
Right. I love the message of getting out there and reaching out to people and understanding that you as an athlete has a voice and a message that has an audience and can be shared with people. I think that's super valuable. We'll get back to you because there was some additional question for you, but I want to move on to Eric and talk about the public speaking industry.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I'm going to share my screen here. Please tell me if you can see it. Are you able to see my screen, Miriam? Good, thank you. So Eric Green, I'm probably the worst athlete on this call, so I'm very humbled by being part of such an esteemed crew. My professional athlete skills ended after college as a squash player at the Naval Academy, and fortunately I had a backup career as a naval officer, so I hedged my bet that I wasn't going to be a professional squash player. Taylor and Nick, thank you for sharing your stories. That's really inspirational. And Taylor, you had ended yours by talking about the story of those folks that are on the call. The business that I'm in currently is called BeSpoke, and it is literally in the business of storytelling. I want to share with you a little bit of how this business got started. Josh Linkner is my partner in the business. Josh is a professional speaker and an entrepreneur here we're in Detroit, Michigan. I met Josh about 10 years ago when he and I both started venture firms in Detroit when Detroit was at its absolute bottom, at least for our generation. Josh now speaks about 120 to 130 times a year, let's call it pre-COVID. His fee is about $35,000 a year, just to give you some context of the money that can be made in professional sports. His focus was on entrepreneurship and on innovation and creativity, but we decided to focus our business, a new business, on athletes and on military personnel, and I'll get to that in a minute. We started to dissect the professional speaking industry, and I shared this slide with you because it's probably bigger than you might think. There's about 150,000 paid keynote speakers. So these are the speakers that might speak at Pepsi's annual shareholder conference or SAP's regional sales conference, etc. There's 750,000 searches for motivational speakers on Google. And there's 100,000 people that say that they are a professional speaker for a living. It's the orange box that I think brought me the most surprise as I got involved in this industry. $4 billion a year in the United States is bought and sold in speeches. Some keynotes, some panels, etc. These are happening every year. Now things are turning into virtual as it is, but there still is a very big industry for those to share their story. So as I mentioned earlier, we began BeSpoke to really focus our efforts on two types of people that really have invested in themselves: military personnel and professional athletes. And the reason we did this is because we looked at the characteristics of what it took to be successful in the world of professional speaking. And here, hard work, discipline, being in the spotlight, being a hero. 95% of the time is spent training, and well, look at that, 100, I added an extra one. And 5% is really in the high performance activities. And so when we thought about what other professions have that type of characteristics, we thought of athletes and military folks. The differences that we came up with in terms of being a professional athlete versus being a professional speaker is being a professional speaker really can be a lifetime career. Josh has been doing this now for 15 years. We're both approaching 50, and he's got another 10 to 20 years in it. And second, this is really a big business that really can attract a lot of dollars. But this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You have to do a lot of things to be successful, but there are legitimate dollars in this business that you can earn. So I just did a breakdown of math here. As I mentioned, Josh will do 120 to 130 a year. Even if you did one per week at $20,000 per speech, that's $1 million of revenue. Now, one might ask, okay, one, how do I get these speeches? And two, will I start out at $20,000? And the answer, generally speaking, is starting out at $20,000 is hard. But when I looked at professional athletes, in particular, I looked at Olympians, given some of the folks on this call, the average that people are charging is somewhere between $10,000 and $40,000 a year. To get speeches and gigs takes some time, effort, and energy, but I will tell you that the world is thirsty for more and more stories of professional athletes. A decade ago, a lot of the keynote speeches were done by political figures, and today, because of the polarized nature of our politics, politicians are out of favor. And those that are filling the gaps are athletes and military folks, which is why we focused on these two parts of the business. So I want to share with you a couple things to think about as you may think this is a career path for you. A lot of folks, particularly on the military side, as we've been working with them, tend to just focus on their war stories and the things that they've done and accomplished. One of the things we wanted to emphasize to them, and I'll emphasize to you, is if you're thinking of this type of career, think about the audience to whom you're speaking and what is the burning problem they're trying to solve. What's the problem that you can help them solve with your experiences and your stories? Why are you the right person to solve that problem? What credibility do you bring to solving that particular problem? And third, and I think this is the tough, real tough answer to have, is what's the transformation you create after you speak to people? And if you use this as a framework to building your story, this seems to work time and time again with the athletes and military folks with whom we're working. Oops. I wanted to share with you, and particularly in a takeaway, the 7 must-have elements that we think are necessary for you to sell yourself as a professional speaker. You need an incredible website. You need a rock star video, meaning a video that people can understand the message that you send and the way in which you present. You need an intriguing bio. This is not necessarily a list of accomplishments or a resume, but again, the shared experiences that help a buyer understand how you can help them solve a problem. Of course, you need an engaging topic. And we say somewhere between being entertaining as a movie, but thoughtful and rich enough as a book. We need jaw-dropping testimonials. So those that have heard you speak in the past that can comment on your ability and your effectiveness as a speaker. Of course, gorgeous headshots. I mean, one of the things we say, you don't have to be good looking, but you have to look good. And so being able to put professional headshots together and not just take it on your iPhone. And then the 7th thing that we feel helps speakers get going is fee clarity and not wavering on your fee. Again, as you start to get going in this industry, you'll start at fees in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and then you'll ramp up. But be clear on those fees and try not to waver. The way BeSpoke can help, there's really 3 ways that we help our clients. We have boot camps. These are 2-day boot camps in Detroit generally that are in person, where we go deep into the industry, train you extensively on how the industry works, and then help you to help craft your story. We are transitioning this to a virtual boot camp. We're doing our first one July 11th, which is a Thursday. And Miriam, I'll get you more information as that comes together. We also have an e-learning platform if you're more of a self-starter learner, where we have hours and hours of content on what's available and how to get going into a career. And then, of course, we do one-on-one coaching as needed. This will be in the contact information, but please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. But really, this is the story of you and how you can share your experiences with the world. It's a big industry. It's one ripe to help you make money and capitalize on all your experiences. And thank you again, Miriam, for having me here.
Thank you, Eric. That's another great example. I think this is great that today we have 4 of you talking about different type of support and different type of industry and ways to use an athlete's skills to generate some revenue. So, I mean, the idea is to pick and choose what is most attractive to those in the audience today and really what they can resonate with. So now we're moving on to our next speaker, Danny. Sorry, Danny is going to be talking about his company, Game Day. Again, another way to find alternative sources of revenue for you athletes. Danny, you're the last one, and then we'll go to our Q&A.
Awesome.
You're going to be sharing your screen as well?
I am, yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Danny Harris, the founder of Game Day, and I feel like I'm beating the dead horse on announcing and reiterating the value of every athlete and what every athlete can bring to the table. But 2, I do want to dispute Eric, your comment about the worst athlete on the panel. So I will assume that role, and we can certainly debate it at another time. I didn't make it into college sports, so but very passionate about sports and the industry as a whole. A little bit about my background: I spent a lot of time supporting e-commerce retailers around the world, and that's really where Game Day has, or my awareness about the opportunity within Game Day has taken shape, along with my passion for sports. But if I take a step back again, just where did Game Day come to be? 2 years ago, I happened to be watching a Warriors basketball game. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Warriors were wearing a red warm-up. And like many of us, when something catches our eye, we then want to figure out what it is. And in theory, if we could more quickly and more efficiently find things, then we would have bought them, and we'd probably regret it often. If I think about the Super Bowl that Tom Brady came back and won, how many Matt Ryan jerseys would have been sold in the first half versus the disappointment at the end of the game. But anyhow, 2 days after the Warriors basketball game, I happened to be sitting at my laptop and started to look for that red warm-up. It was for Chinese Heritage Night. And what I realized was, as a sports fan, there isn't a way to discover products from the experiences that we have from a sports fan's perspective. The consistency that exists in e-commerce today is what existed at the beginning of e-commerce, which a top navigation or a left-hand navigation, all determined based on the retailer and how they want to merchandise their products. So from a sports fan's perspective, I think of it as, what game was I watching, who was participating in those events, and how can I more quickly discover what was featured in those particular events, so I could almost I see it and now I want it at whatever point in time that I'm excited about that opportunity. So that's where Game Day came to be, with the main focus of really providing sports fans with that I see it and I want it, that real-time shopping opportunity in that second screen experience. But what's happened over time, as I've learned more about your world and the royal your with the audience that's here, is understanding that there is so many more opportunities that can be provided to athletes and the business side of athletes as it relates to Game Day, that we really wanted to evolve the platform to really be the tool for athletes to help them monetize their brand and measure their social capital, and really create an opportunity to provide a platform and a tool that gives a full 360-degree view about what makes you who you are on and off the field, pitch, etc., that you can share to your fans and followers, let them discover, let them shop. And as a result of all of that consumer activity, you create a new revenue stream in a shared revenue model. And you're also awarded with the actionable metrics that prove your brand influence, that you can leverage for future business deals. Certainly as Taylor mentioned, everyone has value, and we want to help provide the tools for all athletes of all level, to prove that. So I'm going to quickly share my screen, and I'm going to just walk through what the experiences are like within the Game Day world. We're currently on gmdy.co, and we also have a iOS app and an Android app. So feel free to download those from those stores under GMDY. Okay, so again, Game Day is a real-time consumer and analytics platform for athletes to curate, share, monetize, and measure a 360-degree view of your brand. So this is just a little visual about actually what that means. So the athlete has brand representation and brand relationships, and those could be business relationships, or those could just be relationships that help you excel in your profession or in your personal life. You're sharing all of that content out to your fans and followers. They're discovering that you represent those brands professionally or from a business perspective. And as a result, those fans and followers become consumers. Now, again, all of that consumer activity comes back to you, the athlete, in the form of a shared revenue and actionable metrics that can be utilized to change the conversation with all future brands. So let's take a look at what that means. So this is the Game Day website. I have a profile as a sports fan, and athletes can be followed, teams can be followed, and products that I see represented by athletes can be put in my locker for future discovery. So if we took a look at a particular athlete, and we'll look at Giannis, again, we'll look at the ranges of all types of athletes. But if we look at Giannis, and what we see is all of his past events. And as part of his past events, the gear that he was wearing on the court, from his jerseys, in some cases, to the shoes that he was wearing, or what he walked into the arena with. In the case of this Louis Vuitton toiletry pouch or this sweatshirt. Now, what this is showing you is the products that he used on the court. And as a sports fan, if I were to click on any of these products, I would be taken to the retailer directly to transact. Now, me as going to this retailer, in this case StockX, if I buy this pair of shoes, it all comes back as a influence of Giannis, and we're actually also able to show that Giannis influenced a Nike shoe transaction or anything else that happens directly within this consumer practice once I'm on StockX. So I might decide not even to buy this pair of shoes. I could buy something else, and it all comes back as an influence of Giannis from the actionable insights perspective. Another example would be we curate all of the content that is connected with specific athletes. So you can navigate via an all gear tab and filter on different categories, on different brands, etc. And all of this would be for the Giannis fan that is interested in understanding and really discovering more about what he represents. We take another look at another athlete, an athlete like Monica Abbott on the US softball team. She actually has her own brand, the MA14 brand, which many fans may or may not understand, but as this micro influencer could influence more transactions at her own personal store. And all of this content for her personal brand is also part of the rest of the products and brands that she represents, from the A2000 glove to the Ringer cleats that she wears on the field. Another example would be a US track athlete, also a member of the game day team, Manio Mitchell. He has done Instagram posts where he's featured goodies as well as Beats Pill. And so this is an opportunity to bring together, again, more about what athletes represent both on and off the field. We've also been able to connect his Cameo, the opportunity to purchase Cameo videos or public speaking events at the same time. So again, everything has an opportunity to be shown and curated at an athlete perspective. Did anybody know that Bryce Harper had his own hair care line? Because I didn't, but as a result, we're able to show that hair care is a brand or is a category that Bryce Harper is connected with. And in this case, it can be purchased directly at Macy's. By purchasing this, he's able to understand what he influenced from a transactional perspective and earn a new revenue stream. And most recently, what we launched, which I think given the current circumstances of where sports are today, is the ability for every athlete to connect their Instagram content. So their social content can now be connected to their game day profile, and the game day team actually takes it upon ourselves to start tagging products to those Instagram posts. In this case, this is a fitness athlete, a micro influencer. She's connected her, obviously she has family posts, but also, and sells Stella and Dot products, brands. But what this shows is really the democratizing of social commerce, that we want to provide the opportunity for all athletes to connect their Instagram and really expand the offering of the game day platform, but really expand the offering of what can be proven from an influence perspective, because again, all athletes have influence, and all fans and followers are really interested in understanding and discovering more about what you represent. So this is the game day platform. Again, we really want to provide an opportunity and a tool for all athletes to bring together a full 360-degree view of what you represent. That way you can share that out to your fans and followers. They can follow you. We can notify them when you are participating in events or as new gear is added. And all of that, it creates an opportunity for a new revenue stream, as well as, again, those actionable insights that we believe can really influence future business deals, given that all of you have influence, and we want to help you prove that. So I'll stop there and bring it back. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share game day and create more awareness about what the value of the platform is.
Thanks, Danny. That was fantastic and a good way to wrap up everything that you guys have talked about, because it all comes together and it's all linked. So really appreciate that. I hope that the athletes on the call can understand the importance of all of this in creating your brand, leveraging your status, generating revenue for yourself, but also preparing for like your career afterwards. Whether you're interested in going into coaching, business, marketing, law, whatever you want to do afterwards, any of these items are really valuable. If you talk about the public speaking, it can be used in any capacity for your life after sport and during your life in sport. So I think this is super valuable. I'm going to dive into the questions straight away because we have quite a few. So I think the first one comes for Nick. We've had a question on whether Tagalong has other athlete outside of the endurance space, and is this available for other type of sport? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, my network, my world is of athletes within the endurance world. And running, cycling, swimming, rowing, even to a certain extent, it's relatively simpler to throw a pair of shoes on and go meet up with the athlete. We've had discussions with golfers and boxers and former NFL, MLB players, NBA players, because you have to use most of the time a third party, whether it's a gym or a location. We can do it. It just takes a couple more steps to setting that all up, and who pays the guest fee, all of those things at those locations. So we have done it, and obviously in the next version of our app, we're looking to make that a little more streamlined. So we are definitely open and want to expand beyond just endurance athletes. I would say just because that's the world that I operated in, that my brother operates in, that the people I met, it's kind of been a much more natural progression within the endurance world with endurance athletes. And those are typically the people who, I know there's like men's leagues in basketball and things like that. But for the two types of users that we've been seeing, it's typically running, biking, cycling, swimming, rowing, things like that. But open to all types of athletes and all types of sports. Yeah.
Cool. And someone followed up with a question on whether this is available only in the US or you also offer it internationally.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about our platform is that as an athlete, you can update your location if you're home, if you're traveling for a training block, or if you're vacationing. So you can update your location so that people can log in and see, this person has moved, this athlete has moved from Los Angeles to New York for the next week. So making yourself available for in-person trainings in that new area. We have international athletes right now in Australia, New Zealand, as well as the UK. The payment system that we use, we have to, again, with the new version of the app, looking to make sure that we can handle all foreign transactions in different countries. So right now we can do US and Canada, but if things aren't available on the app, we can do things manually, whether it's accepting payment through PayPal or our business account through things like that. So looking to expand as much as we can, as we know that athletes are very mobile people. And so as long as we can make that kind of management platform be a worldwide platform for them, definitely something we can do.
Awesome. Any level of athlete? Obviously, we have a different range of athletes that are joining the webinar, and we have a varied audience. As long as they have their own audience, is this something that they can do? What do you recommend?
Absolutely. As Danny, Taylor, and Eric all mentioned, that with their platforms, there's different levels of athletes and what you're trying to do. At Tagalong, our bread and butter is kind of those. We have some athletes who are major top Olympians, and then some who are trying to get to that level. So qualifying to be a pro on our platform is very subjective to us It comes down to kind of the type of athlete you are. If you're willing to work and help us market and promote you, then we absolutely want you on the platform to be able to promote you and put you out there. So our bread and butter athlete is kind of that tier 3, tier 2 building to get up. The reason, my dream scenario is to be able to rebound for 45 minutes for LeBron James. Big fan, would love to be able to do that. I don't think he would do it for $150 an hour. But, the type of athlete that we typically see is the ones who $100 does mean something to them. So that is really the type of the success that we've had on our platform. If the bigger athletes understand that kind of, I love connecting with someone. I love being able to just learn a little bit about someone else, network in that way. We allow the athletes to set their price point of, is this an $80 session or is this a $300 session? So we definitely have the flexibility of working with athletes of all levels.
And Nick, that seems to be something that can be used for athletes now when they're competing and sort of as a side business revenue, but it's also something that athletes can do when they're transitioning. And if they need to have some time to think about what's coming next, they can have a little bit of revenue, but also after they've retired, I think you can potentially continue to have an audience at that time as well, right?
Yeah, when I was doing this before I created it, which led me to the platform for 2 years, and made over $10,000 in those 2 years just doing this. And that to me was great to make that money. It was great to make those connections personally with people. And as you are training and dedicating your life to sport, being able to see. You don't always see the brand that you're creating and the following that you're creating, but Tagalong very much can be that supplemental income to what you're trying to do when you are in that transition period of, okay, I'm retiring or I'm moving on from this, but I don't know what the next step is. There's no reason why you shouldn't use the skill set and experience that you have committed yourself to make some money along the way and connect with people who the common thread of interest is the sport that you do. So you meet some pretty cool people along the way.
And it seems to be a fantastic opportunity. Everybody right now is exercising from home, and we're seeing a boom in online, any type of online sport or exercise, and so it seems that Tagalong it's perfectly placed to take advantage of that, and being able to to get that experience with an elite athlete seems to be a great differentiator too.
For sure. For both athletes and pros, you have the athletes, I think, right now itching to get out there, have that kind of not only accountability, but direction. People, when it comes to fitness and working out and goals, like to be told what to do. And if you can do that along with someone who is better than you and is going to take you through this, you're going to push yourself harder. You're going to work yourself to make sure that you can bring your best to show up to that guy who, is a 2-time Olympian or something like that. And also for the pros, like we were talking about yesterday, Miriam, now with the Tokyo Olympics being delayed, we've had a lot of pros come to us and be like, yeah, this is not something I foresaw, not something I budgeted for. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet for the next year while doing this. If we can add some supplemental income to help figure out as you go down these unknown circumstances, that's definitely something that we like to hear from those pros and like to add it as a benefit.
Awesome. That's great. I think super valuable for athletes right now. Like really, you don't have to delay that process. You have the skill. You have the space right now to do that. I'm going to move on to Eric, and then we'll finish with Taylor and Danny together because I think we have multiple questions for both of you in that space. So Eric, the question that I have for you are more along the line of there is some sort of personal investment and time that needs to be put in becoming a public speaker. And so I'd like to know whether this is an investment that athletes should make as a career for the future, for now and the future, or is this also something that they can do on the side as well? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think particularly while an athlete's, the star is the brightest when they're participating in sport, to get going and to start building the repetitions of speaking publicly and thinking about your message and really diving into the things that can be impactful to audiences is fantastic. And then as you go into, let's call it retirement or that post, professional athlete portion of your career, really building on that and accelerating into full time. So what we've told people on the military side is, get going, think about your stories, think about what's transformative about what you have to offer, and get out there and do the reps at schools, at local communities that, the risk of is pretty low. The price is low, but the risk is low. And you start building reps very similar to you do the reps as an athlete. So
can you tell us a little bit about what messages and stories are most relevant right now? What are people hungry for? Because we don't have just any athlete's story. What makes it specific? Do you have things around women specifically, or para athlete? I think gets a lot of traction as well. So can you tell us a little bit the profiles that are most interesting right now?
Yeah, the people profiles, being a professional athlete is something that many of us haven't done, right? Particularly the corporations that pay. As you get more diverse, whether it's Paralympians, whether it's women, it just heightens the excitement to hear from them. The topics that are most relevant today: leadership in crisis, dealing with adverse times, things that I would imagine a lot of the folks on the call, there's those times of self-doubt, there's those times where I'm not going to make it, and there's things that have happened, transformative internally and externally, that have happened, that you've overcome something and achieved greatness. I mean, coming out of COVID, everyone's looking for what's the next new normal? How do we get through this mentally, physically? It's just the psychological burdens. And I think the experiences of being a professional athlete have probably lent itself to getting through some tough times and how to come out of it.
How do you see the industry reacting to the pandemic? I'm sure there's a lot of uncertainty right now in terms of the public speaking world, but is there still some activity? Has anything reversed into the virtual world? Can you tell us a bit more?
Virtual is all the rage at the moment. We are starting to see pick up back into, let's call it more normal keynote speaking in October timeframe. So Josh is getting booked for October. And I think there's going to be a need and a thirst to get back together and to get into those social situations. It may take a different form. He's scheduled to speak at Sprint T-Mobile, and they're going to do 2 keynotes, and they're going to separate the audience into 2 separate venues. So he's just going to bounce from one to the other while they're eating lunch. So there'll be some changes to format, but I still think there's something about getting together in person that's so important.
So it looks like it's a good time right now to be preparing for when things get better and really invest in yourself and getting ready for that, right?
Absolutely. Particularly those that are on the line that are going to Tokyo 2021. You come out of that with a star that's very bright, and then get onto the circuit of speaking is really timely.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. So Taylor and Danny, can we talk about a few things that sort of relate to both of you guys? First of all, in that space of influence marketing, as well as the commercialization of it. I do have a question, Danny, for your platform, and if you can tell us how do athletes actually, do they get paid for some of the product that gets sold? How is the compensation done, or is it just a measure of influence?
No, so if as the fan is buying things or using your profile to discover products, and that example of from Giannis to StockX to buy those shoes, the athlete in that case, Giannis would earn a shared revenue that Game Day generates as a result of that transaction. So we share with the athlete the revenue that is generated as a result of that transaction. And interestingly enough, some of those transactions could take place within 7 or 30 days. So the transaction doesn't have to happen immediately. What we're excited about is really creating that discovery for that product, and then giving that fan that opportunity to come back at a later time, if they so choose, ideally it's the I see it and now I want it, because there's less distractions, and really wanting to eliminate some of those touch points that Taylor talked about, because people really will act more quickly in that case. But it's a shared revenue that the athlete gets, and we believe it's impactful, and it really will assist for many athletes as they're thinking about training, and making it through these trying times.
Absolutely. And I think one of the questions that athletes ask themselves a lot is where do they get started? How do they build a brand? What's their story? Before they even come to you, Danny, I feel like I want to touch a little bit on what you said, Taylor, is about their story and where do they start? Do you have like any recommendation on getting that first foot in the door or connecting with brands? Where should an athlete start?
Yeah, well, one, I would start right away. We brought up the nature of the situation right now, just with COVID. Like in my world, like my world is a vertical of just repurposing influencer content into Facebook. My belief is Facebook has the ability as a machine learning system, and just how sophisticated their platform is to place this content in front of the right audiences that will convert the most people and bring in consumers into my community better than anybody else's social media audience. I would even say LeBron James. Like if I had LeBron James content and I could repurpose it on Facebook ads in comparison to his own audience, I would use his content and use it on Facebook. That's how much I believe in that machine learning system to put that content for the right people. That said, within COVID, this situation, no one can create content right now. All these production shoots are canceled. Studios are just done, closed. So the only means of content right now are customers. Brands are reaching out to their customers, their top customers, for user-generated content, at-home content creators. This is like the time for you to reach out now. Brands like Danny, you presented your screen at one point. One of the track athletes had an Incrediwear sleeve. I took note of that. We run paid media for Incrediwear. I want that guy to shoot content for Incrediwear to use on our channels to win. I'd rather have that than me creating content for it, which we do at times when we're desperate for it in these type of times, to put in that ad account now and run. So I would say just reach out, and I already built out a template, Miriam, and shared it with you to share with everybody, for you to reach out to the brands that you see on your feet when you train, the products that you use when you train, all the above. Just build a list of 5 to 10 brands, send this email out to them, start a relationship, because the time is really now more than ever.
Let's not discount the authenticity of that type of content. It is
Right.
what you represent. It is what makes you who you are, and it is what keeps you in that professional level, versus some of the inauthentic content that could be professionally created.
Right.
It is
Right.
you. It's you on the track. It's you in your profession, helping you keep that top shape.
Yeah, and I would rather use you over any like quote unquote influencer that has this massive following, but that has really nothing to do with the product. There's so many brand storytelling opportunities in the way that you interact with these brands and these products on a day-to-day basis and becoming the best athlete that you can. So you are a brand's dream. I just genuinely believe they don't know or think they have access to you. So if you build that bridge on your end and reach out to them, there will be opportunities at your door.
Well, and I think to that point, Taylor, also we have tier 2, tier 3 athletes, or athletes from perhaps less known sport, or even in football, but athletes that are less known. They have to take that first step to make themselves available. But once that's done, it seems that the system will also feed them as we go. Like I see your platform, Danny. Once you get it started, you will see what the value of your audience and your influence is, and then it would feed it as you go. So I think this is fantastic. I really there's a lot of opportunities here for athletes through you guys and what you offer. So I guess to wrap up, I just wanted to first of all thank you all for getting on the call. We're going to be sharing your information with our audience here on the call, but outside as well. The idea is to get athletes in the best place possible so that they can continue to do their sport, or that can help them transition better out of their competitive years. So we learned about public speaking. We learned about coaching or training experiences with Tagalong, and then influencer marketing and how to commercialize that. And I think this is extremely valuable, and just encourage athletes to get on board with that, because it's really the future for them, and just helping them take advantage as much as possible of what they're doing now and right now. I can't emphasize that enough. It needs to be now. Cool. Well, again, thank you so much. We'll be in touch with everybody. Check out our website if you want to learn more information. We'll share by email as well. I wish you all the best for the week. Stay safe out there, and thank you again.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you. Thanks.